Be clear, nobody's coming to watch me.
Yeah, they're here to watch Steve and I and other Mike.
Techno Mike.
All right, looks like we're ready, boys. Ready to roll?
Yeah, why not?
And we're on in 3. Hey, this is Wicked Spursy, Mike, Steve, and Dave. Mike, how you doing?
Mike, how am I doing? Well, here's the thing, Dave.
What is that? Was that
You,
too fast
you
for
know,
you?
no. I just, I wanted
He
to.
was unprepared.
I was completely prepared, and I had no techno issues today. And you caught me off guard because I figured that you're going to make some comment just as we started to go live about my techno issues.
No, I was admiring the savvy with which you handle things. However, can I say this? Funny little twist, and I know you're aware of this. Last week we had Brian on. I went to Brian first, and I was like, Brian, how you doing? He's like, I'm great. How are you guys? And I commented like, dude, you can't throw it back like that. And then I listened to the Vermont Green podcast, and your guy did the exact same thing to you. You're like,
Will did the exact same thing.
You threw it right back. So
and I was like, there's no and then, just like you did.
Happens to the best of us, right?
Yeah, of course it does, and we are the best. So I mean, that's all there is to say, and I guess we can sign off for the night.
Very true. Very true. So with that though, how you doing?
I was on call this weekend. Didn't get called in until like late in the afternoon on Saturday, so I got to enjoy or not. Let's just say Saturday happened. And I got to watch our football club, and then Sunday came along, and 4 a.m. Sure enough, I get a call. Had to go into work, and I was there until like 2:00. I got home, settled in, watched some pregame for the big game, the Super Bowl. And in my house, the Super Bowl is like it's like a holiday in my house. So it gets treated as such. Lots of food, lots of drink, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, this year.
That's really unique, Mike, because nobody else does that. That's cool how you do
The
that.
only person in America.
No. So there are Super Bowl parties and stuff, but it is a holiday. So you recognize the holiday and you watch football all day long. You are able to rep your favorite team, no matter who it is. I don't care who it is. You're able to rep your favorite team by wearing that team's colors. And it doesn't matter if they're in the game or not. And just like my team's never in the game, but I've been doing it since I was a kid when they were in the game. And I was treated to a half of football dominated by the team that I wasn't rooting for. Got through the halftime show, which, by the way, was annoyingly fabulous. Rihanna was she's just breathtaking, man. She's phenomenal. And I love her.
I like her. She's solid.
The backup dancers were annoying as fuck, which ruined everything for me, of course. And then we got into the second half. Things started to happen. Pat Mahomes was doing his magic, and then, boom, phone call from work.
Ooh, no kidding.
Had to listen to it on the radio on the way into work. That I got
to
work,
and you couldn't drink during the whole Super Bowl because you were on call.
No, which is even funnier because like halftime comes around and you were piling in more food, of course, the whole family, and my wife walks out of the kitchen with a beautiful Schlitz can of Schlitz. I love that shit. And she walks through the kitchen into the living room with it, and I looked at her. I was like, "Really, you're doing that? This is how you treat me?" And she said, "What did you want me to drink something else?" And I was like, "I don't know." She goes, "Is there any Busch Light in there?" And I was like, "No, just the fact that I'm on call right now." And right at that moment, I said, "You know what? I haven't been called in for the rest of the afternoon. I'm gonna get a beer." And then I got called, so I had to go to work. Missed most of what happened. Got into work. The case was like 5 minutes. Got to watch the entirety of like the second half of the fourth quarter. So got to see the end of it. Got to see Pat Mahomes work his magic. It was a phenomenal game. I had a great weekend outside of what we watched on Saturday. But weather's been turning. Today at work was kind of shit, but that doesn't matter to me. I have tomorrow off.
Very nice. Glad to hear that for you. Mr. Steve, how about you, man? How you doing?
I'm good, Dave. How are you? No, I'm just
Great.
kidding.
Great. So glad you asked.
I mean, I am curious how you're doing, but I can give you a little bit more. I can give you more. No, it has been kind of a bit of a clusterfuck. That's
don't mean
probably
to
the
laugh
best
at
way
you.
to say
Your delivery was funny, not the situation.
No, it's all just, Spurs shitting the bed's one thing, but I have a work routine. Every month, I have the exact same reports that I have to populate in the exact same time period, due on the exact same day, without fail, every month. And I start working on them, and I realize that halfway through last month, they changed. They implemented changes which fucked over everything that I had carefully lined up and structured to make it as easy and seamless as possible to get all that stuff populated, because it's 17 different reports that I have to populate that I can't start until after the 10th, and it has to be done by the 15th. Except that because of what they did, not only did it mess everything up, but it also took the total number of reports that I have to build up to 25. So I have to do 25 different reports by the 15th. And it takes me a solid 40 hours to do 17. So, maybe 2 hours into this morning, I had to email, I emailed my boss, I emailed the owner of the company, and I was like, you're not getting this on Wednesday. It's just not going to happen. It is physically impossible for me to do this. So that was fun. I don't mind the extra work. I don't mind the changes. Like I knew there were going to be changes coming. I just don't understand why you do that in the middle of a month when, like, just wait till the end of the month. Just wait 2 weeks and start fresh. Like now I've got half of the data is in one place, the other half's in another place. Do they line up properly? No, of course they don't, because a quarter of it belongs to one spot and the other quarter goes somewhere else. It has been a clusterfuck, Dave. So that's
Steve,
where I'm at. That's where I am at today.
I'm really, really sorry to hear that. That's not cool. Mike would tell you should start a union, because then they won't change your working conditions on you unexpectedly. Right, Mike?
Touchdown.
But Dave, I manage.
That's a tutty for Mike.
That's a tutty. We learned what
Tutty.
a tutty.
On the
major.
plus
It's
side,
major tutty.
Major
I
tutty.
have
There
this.
you go.
I did pick up this variety pack of a drink I haven't really had since like college, because I saw it in the grocery store and I thought, you know what,
Zima.
I'm gonna go for it.
Steve wasn't
Oh, no,
born then, Mike.
That was Zima for us. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I got a variety pack of woodchuck.
Woodchuck.
And in this pack, they had their standard, hard cider. And then they had a couple of other interesting ones. What I'm drinking tonight is called a pear secco, and it is delightful.
Yeah. Amy likes those.
Nice.
They have.
I'm drinking boxed red wine out of a Beavertown glass, just like I was last week.
Very
Cheers,
nice.
boys.
Because that box will last you forever.
It feels like it does.
I'm going to tell you what I'm drinking, but I'll do it later. So
yeah, tell us about that later. Hey, I wanted to share. You guys know this already. we didn't ask you yet. Just hold your horses, bud. I was down in DC last week, the last half of last week, which tends to happen about once a month or so. And unfortunately, every time I've been down there, it never aligns with a Spurs match when a Spurs match is happening. It just doesn't work out. But on Saturday, I was able to get over to the Irish Channel, which is the pub where the DC Spurs gather to watch their matches. And I enjoyed myself, had a good breakfast, had some good conversation with some folks at the bar. Really nice English lady. I forgot to get her name, but she and I kind of chatted it up throughout the game, because there was really nothing else positive going on during the course of that match. But I do want to say it was really interesting to be in a place where there were multiple Spurs fans gathered to watch a match. Living in the corner of Vermont where I live, you guys know this, you guys are 3 hours north of me. So to get to our local meetups is relatively impossible, especially on weekend morning games. The next closest place to me is like an hour and a half away. And again, on a weekend morning, I'm not going to make that road trip to go to a pub. So it highlighted for me that having that resource available is a cool thing, right? To be able to gather in a place where other people know what they're talking about and know what they're watching, as opposed to just me alone in my family room. That was an enjoyable experience. So to the DC Spurs folks, I'll throw a shout out in our podcast notes later, but hopefully next time I'm down, will be another match weekend or weekday and be able to make it happen. So that was how things went for me. But on the Super Bowl, Mike, I didn't get to watch a lick of it. I was on a train. I was on a train coming home. Screw Amtrak at the moment. Although the service is great, the Wi-Fi service was garbage and wasn't functional enough to do anything that looked like watching a game. And the cell signal was disrupted at best. So yeah, I was missing out on the whole thing. So I read about it this morning. Very exciting stuff to read about the day after.
It was a very exciting game.
Yeah,
lots of intrigue. Lots of controversy. So as usual with the NFL,
I will admit I've been listening to the podcast that the Kelsey brothers do. Those two guys are funny. So that whole subplot about the two brothers playing each other for the first time was a good one. But yeah, shout out to the what's they called, the New Heights podcast that they run, which is very quickly popular if you follow the rankings of podcasts at all, which we're climbing our way up, of course. Right.
What do you mean?
Travis Kelce
is top.
Travis Kelce's the best tight end of all time. I mean, fighting for that spot with Gronk, but for what it's worth, I fucking hate Philadelphia, and I hate the Eagles. Being a Washington fan, those guys were nothing but classy after the game. Even the guy who had the controversial hold. Admitted to holding the guy.
Admitted to the holding, yeah.
Yeah. Probably so the city of Philadelphia wouldn't burn down. For some reason, they actually put grease on the telephone poles there, so that people won't climb the telephone poles.
Tracks.
Yeah. That does track, but it could very well be a fuel for fire. So
it very well could.
Yeah,
Mike, so, I also want to let you know,
Philly for not burning your fucking city down, you idiots.
I ordered some food from a food truck and was waiting for my food and was just kind of scoping out some of the guys that were selling various wares on the street. I almost bought you, Mike, a bootleg Redskins baseball cap, but I was like, nah, he's already got a Redskins baseball cap. That's probably legit. But yeah, this guy was still selling like ones that he might have stitched up himself with, a patch he took off a jacket or something. Almost didn't happen though.
That Redskins gear is packed away for a day when I can sell it for a lot of money.
There you go. Good idea. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about the crappy match on Saturday. Steve, why don't you get us started, man? Where are we going with this thing?
Oh God. Was there anybody who didn't completely shit the bed? I wanted to start on a positive, but even
you did. You talked about the reports that went terrible for you. That was your positive, right?
Yes.
The TPS reports were the positive.
The TPS reports. I almost feel bad for Pedro Porro to come into that game and to think I am a nailed-on starter and to perform so much worse than Emerson Royale did the week before. I mean, holy shit. Like,
yeah, our episode title last week about Pedro Porro, future MLS player, it looked like a really, really solid prediction.
I don't know what we were thinking at the time, but no, it was unfortunate. The dude was out of position. He was caught out of position so much. He missed some interceptions, missed some tackles, got beat way too much. It didn't help that Tanganga is just dog shit. And I feel bad because that's like, that's another academy guy who like everybody wants to do well and wants to be like the next big academy product. But I swear every time the dude gets his chance, he just doesn't ever take them. I don't understand why Davinson Sanchez, of all people, did not start ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
in hindsight, I'm sure, maybe they would have done something a little different there, but it just, that entire side was so vulnerable, so exposed all the time that it was just painful. And people were talking about how ineffective Decky was, and I think a huge part of that is he's got a brand new wing back to try to work with when he's built up, some kind of a rapport with Emerson, with Dougherty before he left. So now he's got somebody new to work off of, and that person is like just completely beside themselves, no idea what they're doing. They haven't quite figured out the plan yet. They haven't quite gotten up to the pace of the competition. That for me was not a good debut. And the fact that, Conte waited so long to make any changes is just infuriating. I mean, we're all used to it at this point. Conte just doesn't make impact subs soon enough. But I think any of us watching that game would have been like, yeah, if you had just hooked 3 of those guys at halftime and replaced them, I don't think anybody across the Spurs fandom would have blamed you. Take your pick, right? Poro, I've named, Tanganga I named, but literally any one of them. Son, you could have hooked off for somebody else for some more impact. One of the midfielders, Bentancur got his goal, but aside from that, the only real big contribution he had was blowing his ACL. Hell, you could have fucking put a new keeper on. I can't think of a single player who deserved to finish that game. Like any of them could have been and should have been subbed off. And the fact that it took so long is just, it continues to blow my mind. I just, maybe it's an ego thing. Maybe it's arrogance. I don't know what it is, but I'm just so sick of these coaches who can't admit that they've made a mistake and make the changes that they need to make. I think the last time I really saw something like that was when Jose Mourinho hooked Eric Dyer, 25 minutes in that one game. Like that's the only big notable change that I can remember from Spurs history where somebody has been like, you know what, I fucked up with this game plan. Let's do something quickly to turn it around. We're waiting too late to make changes. We're clearly behind. We're not playing. I don't know if they had their eyes on the Champions League fixture and they just thought, you know what, it's Leicester. We can, walk through this game. Maybe the first goal gave them a false sense of security. I don't know what it was, but it was garbage all around. Absolute garbage. And the fact that we're now without Bentancur is just going to make the rest of the season fucking miserable. I am not, you know what, I will leave you with a positive before we ask Mike his thoughts. I am not as down on Skip and Sarr as the rest of our fan base is. They seem to think that they are fucking USL2 players coming over from the US to try to slot in. But, Skip, when he was playing consistently for us, was a great midfielder. Sarr has shown that he, when he has his when he's feeling up for it, he can do some great, interesting things on the ball, great positioning. He reads the game very well for someone his age. I'm not super worried about that. I mean, it is a step down, but it's not a massive slide that I think a lot of people are making it out to be. That to me is not that big of a deal. If one of those guys gets injured, then we're really truly fucked because
and truly, right?
Højbjerg's going to get run into the ground by the end of the season. So, if he picks up an injury, then I'm just doom and gloom. But for now, midfield, there are bigger positions for me to worry about than what's going on in midfield.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that, Steve. And I mean, you're absolutely right. Skip, when he had a run, when he was able to play consistently, above solid as a consistent player, and really filled kind of that intangible Højbjerg role in a lot of ways, from my opinion. And sorry, I'm excited about him, but yeah, we got other problems. We got things beyond that to worry about. Mike, can you illuminate some of those problems for us?
Some of those problems, well, as Steve alluded to, they're not USL2 players.
They
But
wish they were.
I
Come
mean,
on,
maybe,
Green.
yeah, that's right. Maybe Charlie Adams and Rodrigo Ferreira could fill in for Spurs right now. We need some backups because that's literally all we have. I don't know who's gonna be sitting on the bench for midfield help come tomorrow.
Alfie Devine, it's your time to shine.
That's right.
You know, um, the real problem for me is the lack of defense. Now, in a Conte system, we all know in a Conte system that Conte likes to invite the pressure so that we can transition. The transition game is his game, right? You need dominant midfielders who are going to put in hard tackles, who are going to intercept balls, and you need confident, competent pressing from your deep midfielders and even your center backs. The problem is we don't have the players to do that, right? I mean, you've got Eric Dyer, who at times has been brilliant, like he was last week against City. At times, looks like the fucking shitbird that we know that he is. And that always seems to happen, with the exception of the end of last year, because he was in a really good run of form. But when he doesn't have a good right-sided center back to cover for him, he needs a partner, a center back partner that's going to cover for him when he is trying to do some of the things he does. Now, I don't know if this is a mix-up that happened because Conte has been out sick and Stellini was in there, but maybe nobody told Eric Dyer that we weren't playing Man City again, and that the game, comes at you a bit differently from a different team. Man City is not going to change the way they play based on the team that they play, right? Man City played, and they play to the strengths of a Conte system, whereas Brendan Rodgers is like, no, fuck you. I don't care where we are at the table. My team is going to put in those hard tackles. We're going to allow you to have the ball, and then we're going to take the ball from you immediately. You know, they're going to press hard. They're going to play hard the entire match. And whether some of those things work for them or not, is up to the players. And it's not up to our players. Everything is so mechanical with this system, and the system doesn't allow anybody to change. So you're left there with a guy like Tanganga on his right and Ben Davis on the left. All three of those guys should be fucking gone from this squad. There were times where where Dyer was responsible for 3 of those 4 goals, in my estimation. One of the times, whose goal was it? Who had the third goal? The goal right before halftime.
Iheanacho? Was it Iheanacho?
Yeah, Iheanacho, right? Yeah.
Love that. That's a great name.
Iheanacho
Makes me hungry.
made him look so made him look so stupid. He did that little thing where he kind of backs up, and then he backs up and he can't back up quick enough because the guy's on him so quickly, because he gave him so much fucking space to run at him, and then he puts his hands behind his back and he does that little thing where he turns. And Iheanacho just kind of like said, okay, I know you're going to do this, so I'm just going to go back this way and put the ball back across him. And Fraser Forrester, I'm sorry, dude. I keep hearing people saying, oh, he wasn't that bad. He wasn't that bad. Oh, that's not his fault. No, I mean, the first goal wasn't his fault. Like, nobody's stopping that fucking thing. And that guy hadn't scored since like 2015. So that's Spursy as fuck, right? But the first goal or the second goal happened because Dyer was too fucking forward. Like, we're not playing Man City. He can't get back quick enough because Ben Davis, I'm sorry, nice player, fine, does what he does. He needs to be binned off too because I don't think he's smart enough to play the
Binned
game.
off. Listen to Mike with the English, Steve. You hear
That's
that?
right. I'm saying binned
Needs to
off.
be
He
binned
does.
off.
That's an English soccer term too.
We know.
Yeah.
We know.
So yeah, I
Suck
understand. You had to find who am I sucking up to?
Yeah, so
Our English supporters.
Our one English supporter watching us right now.
It's windy, isn't it?
I'm sure Wendy's listening to us right now. That dude's got a lot of other stuff that he's doing right now, so he doesn't have to worry about us. Anyway, I just don't think our defense is competent enough, and Fraser Forrester is not good enough. If
Well, he's
we
like
thought
a million years old.
if we thought that Lloris wasn't good enough, Lloris was at one time world class. Fraser Forrester's never been world class. He's big. He's like a giant sack. He's like a 250-pound sack of potatoes. Right? He just cannot move. He cannot move. He's
a Premier League goalkeeper, man. Like, lighten up a little bit on the dude.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You called him a 250-pound sack of potatoes who can't move.
That's right.
He's like 6'7". He's got a lot of body to get moving, man.
Yeah, but he's a million years old. He doesn't.
You know
have
who
the
else? You know who else is
reaction time
6'7" and moves? Travis Kelce. You know?
Yeah, and what is he? 28.
It doesn't fucking matter.
Hold
Fraser
on,
Forrester
are you
could be
saying we
fucking.
should sign
He
Travis
could be
Kelce
20. He
as
could
a
be
goalie?
24. Some of these Premier League.
So yeah,
players
should we sign Travis
22.
Kelce to play goal?
Who?
Should we sign Travis Kelce to play goal?
He might be better. Who knows?
He might be.
He's lighter
Bin
on,
off Forster.
He's lighter on his feet and he has a smaller head and a better attitude. Fraser Forrester, he's boring. He's not exciting.
He's boring. What's boring?
Slow.
Listen, I'm not a Forster apologist by any means, but why are you so hardcore against this poor guy, man? Like,
because everybody's saying
he hates
wasn't that bad.
alliteration.
He wasn't that bad. He wasn't that bad. He was bad. And it's the reason he was bad was because of the three that were in front of him. And the real problem came when we weren't able to do anything in terms of passing. So what did Leicester do to us? They did exactly what we did to Man City last week.
they did.
Exactly. They dominated the midfield. They took the ball from us whenever they wanted to. And
they shut down our front line.
And it created quick transitions. Like, nobody on that team played well. And I feel sorry for Pedro Porro, and because that dude is world class, but this was not the type of game for him to come into. You know when you go to that fucking place that it's going to be a wild shootout, right? That dude can't play defense. That's not the type of player he is.
And to stick him next to Tanganga, like, buddy.
It might have been smarter to play Emerson.
Mike, you know what I love about you? Here's what I love about you. You say binned off like the English. You refuse to say Derby because that's English. You say sorry like you're Canadian. Like, I just love how you just are like international Mike. You mix things up and really bring a lot of variety and spice to our
international listeners. Man of
Dave,
mystery.
I'm slowly learning to be a man of the people, and maybe someday I will say Derby. But for now, that's somebody's name.
For now, you're sorry, right?
I am sorry. Well, yeah, I mean, say
Who
sorry.
the fuck names their kid Darby?
How would you say sorry?
I don't know, Darby O'Gill and the Little People, right? I mean, that's a fucking movie.
Is that PC?
I don't know if that is.
I don't know. They were leprechauns.
You should think about your words, Mike.
It's a movie from the 60s. Come on. Jesus, what's wrong with you people?
How much time you got?
Jesus Christ. Anyway, yeah, so Spurs lost, and
you know what I want to see?
Could have very easily been 5-0, but those first like 5 minutes of the game were super exciting. I thought we were going to walk away with it, especially since we scored an accidental goal.
We did. Steve, you know what would be really fun right now?
What?
Mike just poured a beer. I'd love to ask him an important question, just to force him to hustle his way through the current one to move on. Should we, or should we give it a couple minutes? What do you think?
I don't know. Are we feeling like he deserves it? He just made a very non-PC comment that could get us canceled. So
It's
maybe
true.
we want to put him up against it.
I think we should put him up against it. And we only have about a half hour till Steve o'clock strikes. So I want to make sure
below average. Let's put it, folks below average height prefer to be called little people. It doesn't really matter.
So you prefer to be called
It's
little
the name
person?
of a movie. I was trying to, oh my God, damn. I was trying to illustrate the fact that people are named Darby.
Look, I don't know what you're smoking, Mike, to think that there are people named Darby, but I would love to know. Hey, Mike, what you drinking?
Well, I'm going to finish this before I tell you because you're being so goddamn mean to me.
Us, we would never be mean to you.
Steve violating his number one rule: don't be an asshole, right, Mike?
Yeah.
No,
right?
that's rules for thee, not for me.
Yeah. Do as I say. Do as I say. Not
Do
as
as
I
they
do.
say now. They do. That was my mom's favorite saying.
Like, your parents, you've got your kids. It's like, no, you can't say that. That's a daddy word. Like, don't copy me. Like, it's that sort of thing.
This
When
glass
I'm
is
driving
empty.
around the town and I just happen to swear up and down at somebody who's driving like a moron, like, no, sorry, buddy. Just that's a daddy word. Daddy can say that. You can't.
You don't even bother with like the Vince Vaughn earmuffs.
No, God, no.
No. I had to say that to a grown ass adult the other day.
Earmuffs.
Earmuffs. Because I'm not sure that he actually knows what swears are. Anyway, I have this awesome glass that I love. It's my treehouse glass. Treehouse brewing
Okay.
glass.
Nice,
So,
nice.
It's one of my favorite glasses. It's super heavy duty and it's big. Fits a whole US pint in there.
So it's not a little glass because it's above average size.
Dave really piling into him today, huh?
Is it a dwarf glass, Mike? I'm just wondering how you would,
Well,
how
okay,
you would describe
Dave.
it. Or is it a giant? Abominable.
Abominable.
The abominable glass.
It's a bumble glass.
It's a bumble. So today, yes. So I'm very excited, and I was talking to you guys before we got on here, how excited I was about this beer. This is and we do a lot of IPAs, right? A ton of IPAs. We're doing another IPA, but we haven't done the triple IPA.
The triple winter IPA, it looks like, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. And is that picture? Is that guys like on ice fishing?
No,
maybe.
No, it's snowboarders.
Ah, okay.
It's from it's called In Search of the Perfect Beer.
All right.
It's pretty cool. It's got the neat little sun, snowboarders, and all that stuff on it. It's from a brewery that I've been waiting to come up here for a long time, called Vitamin C, SEA. It's in Weymouth, Mass. Triple IPAs are they're just like a double IPA, except they use more grain, they use more adjuncts, they use more hops. So during the brewing process, so the triple kind of explores the hop character of the beer, and because there's more grains, it's obviously going to be higher in alcohol. They're usually above 10% alcohol. The triple kind of refers to the dry hopping process. So, and it's not triple the amount, it's or three different additions of hops. It's there's apparently no way to quantify what triple means, but other than the fact that it's higher alcohol and it's typically super much hoppier than a double IPA. So it's like not like a Belgian triple, but this beer looked fantastic, so I grabbed a 4-pack of it. I typically don't do triple IPAs. I don't really like them. They're usually super hard to drink, thick, heavy duty beers.
Plus, you're usually what, like 10+% on the alcohol? Where's that one coming?
Yeah, this one comes in at 10.2.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Isn't that's a distinguishing factor, right? Like 8 to 10 is a double. Am I dreaming that? Or
no, it's like like 2. It's like 4.7 to like 6.2 is a single.
okay.
Is an IPA. I mean, but the thing is with IPAs is that they haven't like fallen into categories. Like double IPAs are usually like 7.2 to like 10.
Yep.
And this is a 10.2, usually between
right.
10 and 12%.
So Steve, in the next half hour, Mike's going to be getting silly is really what we are about to see.
Yeah. Let's hope I don't make
I look
any more
forward to it.
flow ups and call,
I just can't wait to hear what language you say next.
I might speak in Elfish as a or Dwarfish if as Brian suggested last. Oh wow, this thing is thick. It smells really good. Like the second that I started pouring it, you could just. I
That's
hope
just
this is
orange
good.
juice.
It's more like a grapefruit. Yeah. Oh, look at that. This is nicely poured.
Oh yeah,
Look at how
that's
thick that is.
That does look like grapefruit juice. Jeez, man.
Um, man, this is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, too bad you got to wait 5 minutes for that head to go down.
That's what she said. Um, so
There it was.
no, that was my office reference.
He's speaking Michael Scott.
I'm speaking Michael Scott. So it is inappropriate, yes.
Precisely.
Oh, look, my watch is talking to me again now. So then I'm gonna go ahead and take a picture of this for the fans at home. All right, let's get into this. See what we get.
So, Steve, while Mike is sipping this, I'll tell you, Saturday evening after I watched a terrible Spurs match, I went to a Washington Wizards basketball game, and before that, I met a friend at a pub near the arena, who is an English and Danish guy who happens to be a Leicester fan, which was its own problem, but he's still a good guy. This particular pub, like their beers on tap, they had a couple local beers that I'd had before and was not a fan of. So I just drank Yingling the entire night.
of course, yeah.
Ice cold.
Smart choice.
I'm telling you, man, like I kind of had 4 or 5 of them in one sitting, I want to say, and it was a delightful sequence of events. Those Yinglings were just tasty.
Yeah,
fresh,
and you went
good
to
stuff.
a basketball game, an NBA game after?
Went to an NBA game after that. Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it worked
yeah,
out well.
yeah. I mean, you would have needed those 5 beers to endure a fucking NBA game.
You know what? Here's what I'm going to say, Mike. It was really interesting, watching the action on the court, and then up on the jumbotron, like they had essentially the feed that was the television feed, like what you would see on TV, and really cool in that environment to see the TV feed, which was like 2D, and what's going on the court's like 4D, like just a completely different visual in terms of how
some sports are much better live, right?
Yeah, just seeing how people move and how fast and clean and precise their movements are, like it really kind of highlighted for me, like professional athletes are really pretty damn impressive when you just really kind of step back and look at it. But
yeah, when I get done with this beer, I'll give you my thoughts on that. But
all right,
this beer is pretty fucking good, dude.
It is.
I don't like triple, like Burlington Beer makes always makes a triple IPA for their anniversary beer. I've never liked it. I've never liked any triple IPA that I've ever had. This beer's it is thick. It is heavy. It is really, really good. I'm not having more than this one. I may not have another beer after this one. Who knows? I do have the day off tomorrow, so you never know.
Tell us more. I need more detail before I can come up with my rating.
Lots of hops like rolling through. I don't even know what kind of hops. I didn't look it up, but I don't know what kind of hops they use here. I'm assuming there's a lot of Citra and Columbus in here, but it's just
Taste
like
of genocide.
Rolling, and that's
That's
Jesus
terrible.
Christ Almighty. It might be creating genocide in my mouth right now.
Christopher Columbus, what a dick.
There's so much alcohol in this. It's definitely killing off all the bacteria that I might have in my mouth. But this beer is it's beautiful. It's well crafted. It's got like all that pineapple and mango that you usually see in like a double IPA, a New England double IPA or Vermont IPA. It is thick, it is heavy, and you don't get a ton of alcohol burn. It's like super smooth, which is not really characteristic of any triple IPA that I've ever had. Of course, I don't venture into that area because I don't really like them that much, maybe because of that one beer that I had, but this is really good. 3.9.
Oh, Dave.
So close. 3.8 was my call. I thought about going with 3.9, but I was like, nah, he won't go that high on it. But
it's just there's a lot going on there, and it's just it's really hard to explain. Yeah, I don't know how other to explain it beside.
Maybe with a song.
Yeah, explain it with a song. That's what I'm thinking. Well done, Steve.
Oh, good. Um. All right. I'm gonna go. All This and More by Dead Boys, because this beer is kind of punk rock. It's kind of more than I expected, I guess. And there's a lot going on there. That song is that band, well, that song's not their most famous song, but it's one of my favorites from them. So
I can't even think of what that song is, so I'm trying to find it so I can hear it right now.
So Dead Boys were like a early mid-70s punk band out of Cleveland. Not many people know that Cleveland had had one of the early punk scenes.
Of course, Cleveland rocks.
Cleveland does rock.
I learned that from the Drew Carey show.
They became famous as like one of the first CBGB bands.
All right, very interesting. I like it, Mike. I like it.
Yeah, they were a little crazy. They were like one of those bands that like did wild shit on stage.
And see, Mike, that's another thing about you. Aside from being multilingual, you also just have the most random, eclectic musical references of anyone I've ever come across in my life.
No, I think our friend Adam has like really crazy good like
true.
Yeah, he's got a lot of music stuff going on. Like he's got a lot more than I do. I kind of stick to my bands within my genres that I love, which are, I love early 90s stuff, late 80s, like alternative and early 90s stuff. And I like the jam bands, and I love Southern rock and what led into the punk scene. I just love the punk scene. Yeah. I think that punk as a genre of music versus an attitude or a clothing style, I think punk is just so wide fucking open, and it doesn't, it has kind of no boundaries, which is what punk is all about. So it's close to metal, but it's like it's an attitude more than anything. So
what do you think?
This beer's got fucking attitude.
Nice. What did you think of the Chris Stapleton national anthem last night?
I thought it was fucking brilliant.
That dude's good.
Yeah, I'd love to see him he's coming to the Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion. And I'd love to see him, but I guarantee tickets are going to go fast, and they're probably like $400 each.
Oh yeah, no question.
For like lawn seats. I'm too old to sit on the lawn,
Tell me again, what was the name of that brewery again, and the name of that beer?
Vitamin C, SEA. And the beer's called In Search of the Perfect Beer, the Triple Winter IPA. It's definitely a winter warmer.
How was you had another one you were drinking a little bit earlier? They had the Russian nesting doll ducks on it, right?
Yeah. It's called Small Beauty. That beer was fantastic. It's Small Beauty, probably referring to the fact that it's 4.3 alcohol. IPA, it's a session. That beer was fizzy, super fizzy, but it was good. It's going to fall along the same lines, 3.6 to 3.8 for me. But cool. This is a brewery I've been wanting to try for a long time. So I got 5 different 4-packs.
You'll be busy for 5 days.
I haven't drank tomorrow.
I haven't drank in a week, and
he's off tomorrow. I'm sorry, 4 days. He's off tomorrow. That's right.
I'm taking my lady love out for a nice lunch. So,
nice. You got the old Valentine's Day off. How about you? How about that?
Yeah, I know. First time ever.
Mike's trying to get lucky on Valentine's by buying lunch. Doesn't work that way, dude.
You can't do dinner, and she deserves to be treated nicely. So
she does deserve to be treated nicely. Let us know.
She's a saint. Let us know when you figure
that out.
So footlong Subway sandwiches.
Yeah, you pay her in Schlitz. It's all good.
I heard the Jimmy John's is open, or whatever it is down there. Jersey Mike's.
Not bad. That'll be tasty. All right. So that's been hey Mike, what you drinking? Vitamin C. in search of the perfect beer.
A
and he
20-minute,
almost found it.
20-minute. Hey, Mike.
About 14,
Couple nice segues. We, it's just like a fish song. It should have been a fish song, because we started with the beer and then we rolled into something else, and then we segued right back into Hey Mike and
That's
rolled
true.
right out
That's
perfectly
true.
without skipping a beat.
Speaking of segues, here's one. How about the next couple of games, huh?
Steve, I want to comment on that because I'm looking. You guys know that I tend to be an optimist, and I tend to see the world through, nicely colored glasses. I think we are screwed. I think with our injuries and with lack of momentum, I hope I'm wrong. Milan scares me both times. West Ham scares me. Chelsea scares me. Southampton is the type of game that will blow.
They're last in the table.
Wolves away scare me. Forest scares me. It's not until I'm sorry, I said Southampton. I meant Sheffield. We play them in the cup. Like
We play Southampton coming up too, though.
we play Southampton in when is that? It's coming up down the road. Late April.
Eventually.
Oh, it's in April. Jesus Christ.
I think we're kind of
play them in
screwed.
March.
Do we play them in March?
Southampton,
Okay.
March 18th.
Oh wow. And then again in April. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned, and I want to be an optimist. And the Spurs, I think, will do what they always do to us, which is just ride the freaking roller coaster. And we'll go watch us win with Milan tomorrow, and then everything's well. But I don't know, man. There's a sense of foreboding. What do you guys?
We don't have Hobby, right? We have Romero back. We have Romero back to protect Dyer. Likely not gonna start Pedro Porro. The problem is that honestly, I think we've probably our season was probably over a few weeks ago. It was probably over in January, when we didn't bring in defensive players. Honestly, we had to fight to get Pedro Porro, which took our eyes off the prize. When injuries started happening, our coach has been distracted all season. The entire staff has been distracted all season. We lost our trainer. Injuries started piling up. It's not looking good, and you have a right to be completely nervous about this. Here's the thing, though, Dave. Milan, I watched a little of their game on last Wednesday. They weren't good, man. They're a fucking mess. They're about as much of a mess as we are.
Well, that's encouraging.
Except for the fact that they don't have as many injuries. We have injuries, man, and as much as I told my friends on that are fans of the other team in North London, you can't bitch about your injuries. No bitching about your injuries. As I say it to Yankee fans too. They're always like, oh, well, the injuries. You can't bitch about the injuries. You have replacements there. We can't bitch about the injuries because we have replacements that are more than capable of doing the thing that the coach needs them to do. But the problem is that the coach isn't engaged enough right now to put in motion the things that need to be done. I don't know if you've seen him on the sideline, man. Dude doesn't look right. I mean, outside of the fact that he just had his gallbladder removed and he looked like he'd been smoking cigarettes and on a 3-day bender the other day. And maybe he does smoke cigarettes, but dude, he doesn't look great, and he hasn't looked great for a while. Like, he's not engaged on the sidelines. He looks kind of distant, like he doesn't care. He's definitely not coming back next year. We bought players for him in his system, and he's not using them in his system. He doesn't make the correct changes when he needs to make them. He refuses to change his system of play to something that's more amenable to whatever team they're playing. and the players. But the thing is, he doesn't have the players to fit the system that he wants to play.
So you're
Because
convinced he doesn't come back next year.
I'm absolutely convinced that he's gone. So why not cut our losses? The only reason to not cut our losses is because we did that before with Jose, right before a fucking final. You
We
know,
did. It'd be really interesting because when he has left clubs before, it's been because the ownership hasn't supported, his objectives. And
he's checked out though.
yeah, he is checked out. It's weird, right? Like, I don't feel like he could say that they haven't supported his objectives. They haven't supported it maybe enough, but they've at least kind of bought what he's been selling. So it'll be really interesting if he walks or we fire him or bin him off or sack him, before the time comes. It's gonna be really compelling.
We did say that, like, he said he wanted Bastoni. They didn't go out and get Bastoni. Like, he said that he needs defensive players. We got Longley instead of Bastoni.
Mm-hmm.
We got Longley on a loan, which there's no chance of Longley's coming back. I mean, we cannot call back any of our loans. Like, could you imagine trying to call back Tanguy right now? The fan base would revolt. Harry Winks isn't good enough. Gio Lo Celso is Gio Lo Celso. He just doesn't care enough. We're in a predicament right now where, as Spurs fans, we kind of have to accept the fact that our coach is checked out, the players are injured, and we don't have the players to play in the system that the coach wants to play. So anyway, we might just have to understand that the season's probably over, but at the same time, we can still be hopeful and we can still bitch about the play on the field because these guys are world-class athletes and they're supposed to be able to impose themselves on inferior.
What a week can do to the psyche, right? Like, what a week can do to the mindset. Steve,
last week I thought we were going to win the fucking league.
I know. Steve, how you looking at this, man? What's it look like to you?
No question about it. I'm ready to get hurt again.
You always are.
Yeah, I mean, this is Spurs, right? Like, we beat City and then we just completely shit ourselves at Leicester. Yeah, I'm convinced that anybody who can say a game is going to go a certain way with any degree of certainty is just completely fucked. That's just impossible. Anybody who says we're going to get absolutely slaughtered in Milan, probably wrong. Anybody who says we're going to Milan and we're going to come away with all 3 points, you're probably wrong too. So it's like, for me, Spurs are like the ultimate toss-up right now. Are they going to show up and perform at a high Champions League level, or are they just gonna, kind of mosey about for 90 minutes and make us all hate ourselves for spending the time watching them? Who knows? But interestingly enough, I think you guys are right. I think, Mike, you in particular, when you were talking about Milan, they're like Italian Spurs right now. 5th in the table, we're 5th in the table. 12 wins on the season, we have 12 wins on the season. Single-digit goal difference, we've got a single-digit goal difference. I mean, like, there's very little from just table standings that separates us. They're getting key players injured. We've got key players injured. It is a complete fucking toss-up as to what happens. The only thing that I think is our saving grace right now is the fact that we lost. And they're going to, I would imagine that they're not so far checked out that they'll show up to a Champions League fixture away from home and think we've got this. Like, this to me is a setup for, we're going to fucking show up because we need to prove that was a fluke. and then they'll get the victory, and then they'll shit the bed at West Ham on the weekend. Like that to me is the most likely scenario. Spurs turning up for the midweek fixture, putting in a performance, win, draw, or lose, that we can at least look at and say, hey, they tried, they did their best. Like, that wasn't terrible. And then they just check out at West Ham, and we're, back here next week talking about, like, what the fuck did we just watch this week? It's none of it makes sense. For me personally, I'm in agreement. I don't know that Conte sticks around after this season. I wouldn't be terribly upset at this point if he just cut ties and left, assuming that our leadership doesn't make the mistake of going after another fucking Chelsea reject manager. Frankly, I think the best thing for this team would just be, and I think we've been saying it all along, we need the board and the manager to be in alignment with what this project is, what the expectations are, and what you're going to get out of it, right? I don't see that. We know that Levy and co are trying to give Conte the players that he wants. Maybe not enough, to your point, Dave, but they're obviously trying. We got Porro in there for Conte. You said that. But I don't know that Conte is willing to put up with the project that is Spurs. That's my gut feeling right now. So if he leaves, I'm not terribly upset. To me, that's more amicable, right? It's not like he's exploding and trying to point fingers and blame X, Y, and Z reason for his underperformance. He's clearly checked out. If he wants to go, I say fine. I'm chalking this season off to just a loss in its entirety. If we bounce back, I will be the happiest guy in the world. But frankly, if we finish outside top 4, it's not going to bother me so much, because I'm anticipating getting some fresh blood in the manager's seat for next season, maybe some fresh ideas. And man, it's just, it's not worth me getting super upset about it right now. We're not in relegation battles. I don't think we're going to go down. We've got a beautiful stadium. The club financials are in a good spot. We've got sustainable revenue coming in. And I know that's not as sexy as a marquee signing.
Sound like a Levy mouthpiece, Steve.
Yeah, but you know what? Like,
he's a Levy stan.
When you read what they wrote following the release of their financials, and you realize, like, hey, you know what? They actually are going to change the financial playground in a few seasons. Like, what do you want? Do you want the short-term glory and then get, bounced from the league like City might be? Is it worth it? To me, it's not. Like, I would rather be a long-term sustainable club that can grow into the massive world-class stadium and training ground that we have than to play pretend for a few years and then just get fucked after that. Like, I would rather the long-term ambitious Spurs than just short-sighted glory that, blows up in our faces in a few years.
Jesse March, future Spurs manager?
No. Fuck no, absolutely not.
Ooh, strong opinion there. Hey, Steve, transition to closing thoughts, because I know you got a bolt. What are your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are, I think most people in the Spurs fandom could do with just a nice walk outside. Just turn off the TV. Take a fucking walk, go out, get in touch with nature, do whatever you got to do, but just like step away from it all. I think we're at the point in the season where there's just so much hate and vitriol going around. People want to blame Conte, they want to blame Son, they want to blame Porro, they want to blame, whatever flavor of the week is. And, I know it's rich coming from me, who's blamed all of them just today, but, is it really worth letting yourself be depressed about, to be, running yourself into the ground over? It's really not, like, we're not winning the league this season. I don't know who needs to hear that, but there's absolutely no way in hell that we make up that difference. Arsenal are going to finish ahead of us. You can try to play pretend, imagine any scenario where that doesn't happen. It's going to happen. They've got a manager in there who's doing his thing. He's got the support. He's had a few years to put them in this position. And we've got somebody who is, a few months from just like, all right, I'll see you guys next time you're in Italy. Don't worry about it.
He has
so
unconditional
much.
love for every single one of his players, and it's like real love. He loves his players.
If you
Loves
say
them.
so.
He
But
says so.
I just, I'm not getting too worked up. I'm gonna, I'll cheer the victories. I'll take the pain of the losses, but I'm not gonna let this season ruin my fucking winter, my spring. It's just not worth it right now. And from like I said, from a lot of the hate that I see going around on social media, trying to blame everybody and their mother for what's
Fraser
going
Forrester.
on. It's like, just fucking take a deep breath, go outside, climb a tree or something. I mean, it's not worth it, guys. Like, just check out for a bit, or you know what, start a podcast and vent about it with a couple of buddies over some beers, and then you can feel good about yourselves afterwards, right? I feel good whenever I vent my frustrations out.
It is a bit of therapy.
Therapeutic. It's great.
No question.
That's
and
where
Mike,
I leave it.
as you know, pitchers and catchers report this week.
Yeah, you know what? It's baseball season.
It's baseball season, everybody.
I've got my Red Sox sweatshirt on. I'm gonna be bringing out the jerseys from cold storage pretty soon.
From cold storage. Nice. Nice. Steve, knowing we might lose you, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Love you. Mike, how about you?
Asshole, people.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Brian tried to grab it last week, and he did this weird like merger of the closing comments, and he tried, but he's a rookie.
Brian, it's the thought that counts, but next time think of something else.
For sure. Get your own catchphrase.
Come up with something, Rhode Island Brian.
Precisely.
Exactly.
How about you, Mikey? What are your closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts kind of echo the same as echo Steve's. Being a fan of teams that are perpetual losers, be it the Washington football team, or even the Boston Red Sox of my youth. I love the fact that European football, English football allows us to be kind of imperfect. It's kind of like, I expect when Washington gets close to making the playoffs, that when they get into the playoffs, they're probably going to lose. With Spurs, it's different. With soccer, it's different, European soccer, because you don't have to be the world-class first place team that's going to win it all. You don't have to. You just have to get into Europe, and you're happy about it. It doesn't mean that mediocrity is good. When you're top 4, that's world class, especially in the Premier League. We're top 5 right now, right? The world's not ending. We're probably going to end up 7th, 8th, 9th, but just think, you could be Everton, right? And I don't mean that as a slight. You could be an Everton fan, knowing that likely your club is going down. Southampton fan, likely your club is going down. Being a Washington fan, being a Red Sox fan of my youth, the Red Sox were always good, but they were just not that good enough. But Washington, when I was a kid, was great, and ever since like 1992, they've been awful. Just the prospect of almost making it is great, but in the end, with soccer, as long as you're kind of there, you're just in them. You have to be in the mix. It's great. As long as you get into Europe, it's great, which means you don't have to be top dog. So to echo what Steve is saying, relax a bit. I know I bitch and I know I complain and I'm trying to make astute, some sort of argument for why we suck. And I say, Eric Dyer is terrible. And Javid Tanganga doesn't belong in this league and that kind of stuff. And I make fun of Fraser Forrester, but in the end, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. As long as Spurs are still in the league, it's still fun. They're right there. They're still in 3 competitions right now. You never know what's going to happen. Everybody's dropping points right now because everybody's tired. Everybody's injured. You never know what's going to happen. Crazy things can happen. Crazy things can happen. You could end up in the goddamn Champions League final. Crazy things can happen. You never know. And that's what I love about soccer, is that you never know.
Interesting. I like that, actually. That's a cool narrative. You should expand on that a little bit. And
You never know.
Yeah, for real.
Crazy things can happen.
Mike, you're just making me think, and I know that you and I will do I'm not gonna say that right now, but here's what I want to say. If I were to tell you that there's a team that I love that has some outstanding players on the team, has made some managerial decisions where really good players have not performed for managers that they should. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. It's a team where the fan base can't stand the ownership group for various reasons. One of which is what they believe to be poor management. The other of which is what they believe to be a not active enough off season where players are brought in to fill obvious holes that everybody and their brother, sister, and mother are well tuned into. And a team that people are saying, I'm done with it. I can't take it anymore. You'd think I was talking about our Spurs, but no, I'm actually talking about my Chicago White Sox, right? Like, it's the same freaking story. When I chose to be a Spurs supporter because of the similarities to the baseball team that I love, I had no clue how long those parallels would hold up. But it just makes me realize, like, I said this when we had Jake Berger on a couple weeks ago, like, sports are supposed to be fun. We're not being paid to do this. We're not being paid to support a club. We don't make money based off of what happens on a field or on a pitch. We do this because it's supposed to make our lives more enjoyable. And to your point, like, you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen. My baseball team has had an unimpressive offseason, but I still have this sense of February optimism going into things. I told you earlier with Spurs, I don't feel great about this next run of matches, but I also know enough about this club to know that we're probably going to be on a roller coaster. And who knows, I could just get surprised because, like you said, we've been surprised before, like in the really positive frame. And that's what actually makes it fun. I thankfully have known all along, you got to keep it in perspective. You got to not get too high or too low, and just enjoy the ride is basically what the point's all about.
It's something. It just reminds me from my my other podcast. I'm going to plug myself.
Please go for it.
United in Green. It's our Vermont Green, our local clubs podcast that we do. Huge following after one season.
Let's give props to Trash Talk that our buddy Steve runs as well.
Trash Talk's a phenomenal one because his latest episode, he did a Black History Month episode, and Black History is American history, and it's just it was good. It really touched home, and it's a good episode. So everybody should tune into that as well. But what you're saying, which sports are supposed to be fun, and we had Will and I had a guest on last week, Sam McCann.
I heard that. Yeah, I listened to that interview. That was good.
Yeah. He's a fan favorite there. Great kid. Great attitude going into it, knowing his limits and knowing his boundaries and knowing where he wants to go in his life, and he knows he has to work hard. He said the same thing, is like, he's out there trying to provide an escape for people and provide entertainment for people. And he said, not necessarily to escape your lives, but to give you some entertainment for at least a few hours of your life. And if he can do that, and whether our Spurs are doing well or not, we get angry at shit, and I get frustrated and angry, but it only lasts a little bit of time. but it does give me that escape to where I can take a lot of the stuff that's in my life out on Spurs,
Hmm.
and they don't care. They don't care. I can take it out by yelling at my TV, you know, and taking out a lot of my frustration and when they don't play well, or I can take the joy out of it too, and take the joy out of it and watching my son, like just watching Sonny, watching Sonny and watching Decky and uh my son plays a lot like Decky does.
Hmm.
He's always got his eyes up and he's always got his head up looking for a pass, type of a thing. And I see that and I see those little things and just the ability to be able to watch that in my son and watch these professional players. And I know he maybe never on a level with them because they're just superhuman beings. But just to see that, I can tell that sport does something for us that maybe nothing else does outside of maybe music, which is give you that kind of it releases chemicals in your brain that just the endorphins, and it gives you a rush, and it does give you an escape from your everyday life. And those players are out there, and a lot of them, most of them, I would say know that they're giving people
Yeah.
an escape in their lives, and that's why we need to, I like I said, I give shtick to a lot of these players. They don't care and they don't know, but they know that people are out there doing that, and it's helping people get over the other things in their lives.
Hmm.
And that's why I appreciate so much of what Sam said last week on our podcast. But
That's a really interesting point, Mike. You're making me think. It gives you a respite, gives you that joy, gives you that breakaway, but it also, when you're a kid, professional sport also impacts how you engage with sport. And like simple examples, for me, again, kid growing up in Chicago, when I would stand on the sidewalk in front of my house, and when I would pitch tennis balls against the front stoop in front of my house, which was a brilliant plan, because when I would pitch the tennis balls, if I hit square on my target, boom, the ball would bounce right back to me. If I hit high or low, like the ball would pop up, it would spray all over the place. Like I had to be on the move. It was beautiful entertainment for this,
I did that on my
this kid.
garage, which made me a good first baseman.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would copy, and I don't know if you remember this guy, but he played for the White Sox when I was a younger kid, Lamar Hoyt. I would copy his
Oh yeah.
his wind up and his delivery, right? Like, because to me, that's what I wanted to look like as a pitcher. When I played basketball, which I was never really that good at, and I certainly wasn't anything close to what a Michael Jordan might be. But you know what I could do an impression of Michael Jordan was how he shot free throws. So like every time I would take a free throw, 3 bounces, backspin, breath, ball, right? Like, and every kid would practice that. Every kid would duplicate that. When we
Oh yeah.
were kids, after we'd shovel the driveway and you'd have the big snowbanks on the side of the driveway, we do Walter Payton, right? Walter Payton jumping over the top of the line of scrimmage, because, you didn't really get to see what the offensive lineman, which I would end up being, you didn't get to see what they did, but you saw Walter go over the top, and you would duplicate that. Or when you would score a touchdown playing street football, you do that little weird high step that Peyton did, like those things shaped what I viewed to be the sport. And so when I think about your son, when you talk about him and having a playing style like someone that he looks up to as having admirable attributes, like that's something too, right? Like sport actually can shape how you become who you become. I'm not saying it makes you into who you are, but it can shape how you approach that.
It's
which
wild
is
because
really cool.
I did see that in him, and I saw it. The other day I saw him in a game, and I watched him bring the ball down into the corner, kind of like Decky does, and just cross the ball in front of the net. And the way that kind of Decky just kind of looks, he's always looking up. If you watch the guy, even if he's like got the ball in front of him, rolling in front of him, just tracking it down the sidelines, he's always looking up. And I saw that in Lucas, and I wanted to be able to like videotape that, zoom in, and just put it side by side with what Decky does. He uses Decky to inform his own play. And like you said, when I was a kid, I would always like when we were playing. Oh well, we wouldn't play street football, but like in the yard, I always wanted to be John Riggins, right? Because I was the
Curly
big
hair
kid.
too. You wanted the perm too, didn't you?
Yeah, oh yeah, I wanted the big perm. That was that was his Jets days. But I wanted to be able to carry the ball
Yeah.
and not have anybody be able to tackle me and push people off. And
Yeah.
the kids were all littler than I was at the time. So
He was like Mike Allstott before there was Mike Allstott, basically.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. But anywho.
Yeah. You know, it's cool though. Like you think about Lucas, one day he's going to have kids or he's going to be a coach, you know, and he's going to have a chance to impart what he believes is the right way to play those positions onto kids. And that's going to be his view on how the game should be played. And he's going to teach somebody else that, you know, like that's really cool to think about.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Time to get out of here. Hey, good episode.
Great episode.
Listeners, fans, we appreciate and love you. Steve, appreciate you, buddy. Mike, what would your last thing you'd have to say be?
Coys.
And
Be safe, everyone.